everybody, it's Chris Murray, and I'm one of the leading childcare business experts in the world. One of the things that's going to be the hugest game changer for you is not only how you behave in your hiring and in your onboarding and ongoing training of your team, but how you think about this and what's possible for you and for your program. So I've got some case studies and some actual proof in the pudding of what leaders are doing out there, so that you can get out of this madness of hiring people just to fog a mirror so that you can cover ratio. And I know that it's happening all over our industry. So if I can help contribute to solving that for half of you who are watching, if you'll actually implement what I'm going to share with you today, it's going to be the biggest game changer to the early childhood industry probably of anything that we can help you do, which is how you hire and how you onboard people to your culture, bring them into your team, make them feel loved and excited, and get them to stay with you long term. So this one thing is going to drive the stability and quality of our industry like nothing else. Because what do we have that nobody else has in terms of a business, a difficulty for how to do business, is we have something called ratio. Blah. Unfortunately, no other business that I know of on the planet has this ratio requirement. And if you get caught out of ratio, you get written up, and eventually if you keep doing it, you get closed down. So because there's such a fear in our industry of being out of ratio, deservedly so, right? There's reasons why we have ratio. There's reasons why we have regulation in childcare, and that's all good. Not saying we shouldn't have ratio, but that one thing that no other business has, we don't have ratio in restaurants and even in assisted living. I don't know if there's actual ratios of how many caregivers to the elderly in an assisted living facility. There probably are, but not like kids. And so it's tough. It's the single driver that causes you guys to hire out of panic, desperation, and fear. So let's talk about it. Let's give you some secrets to how to get out of this method of running your business, because it's detrimental to your future, to children, to families, to teachers, to your quality, and to the way that you run and operate. It's just horrible. So let's get out of that. And so I'm going to share my screen now. Hopefully not painting too gloom and doom of a picture here, because guess what? I have the answer to this issue, and it was shared on our stage at the Childcare Success Summit in Dallas during our onboarding and training panel, and then throughout the 3-day conference. Just amazing, amazing. Today, we're going to dig into your onboarding program. You might be asking yourself, what onboarding program? Completely normal not to have it built out. And, an onboarding, by the way, is just a fancy word for staff orientation and training in the first 90 days. So when you onboard someone, this is kind of a corporate word that we've all adopted, is you onboard them to your team, your policies, your procedures, you orientate them, you give them your culture speech, your core values, you train them to your checklists, you get them all set up and get them set up with their paperwork so they can start getting paychecks and direct deposit and all that stuff, right? Benefits. And so that's onboarding. And we've even chosen the corporate word offboarding, if you haven't heard that one, for how to let someone go, which is a very elegant way of saying you're fired. So instead of, using the firing term, we sometimes refer to it as offboarding. The first question I want to ask you is, do you have a clearly defined onboarding process for new employees? So I just laid out a whole series of things that you might have in your onboarding program, right? And do you have a program? Do you know what you're doing on before the day they show up, day one? Do you know what happens for that employee? Or on the flip side, do we hire if they can fog a mirror, they're in the program, we don't care, and we throw them in the classroom and we just teach as we go, right? So are you doing that? Because if you're doing that, that is a huge risk to your program. Running an early childhood business is full of risk. We've talked about this before. And so you exponentially will increase the number of issues, licensing risks, parent dissatisfaction, parent complaints, lack of good communication skills to parents. So you're going to have withdrawals out the back door of your school from parents if you don't fix this problem, because you're still going to be on the hamster wheel. So what's one of the biggest drivers of parent withdrawals out of your school? Parents leaving and children withdrawals. It's staff turnover, right? Staff turnover equals parent turnover. Most of the time. Because it's not good for children to have high levels of turnover. So we got to fix this problem. So the best way to fix the problem is to hire for a culture fit, always be hiring, and hire more rigorously. So you make sure that they are going to be a fit, and then have a clearly defined onboarding process. Do not be at the mercy of the labor crunch that we're in right now. So you have to flip it. So we talked all about in this session, this is one of the summit sessions from Dallas, and here the ladies are. We did a panel, and it's Jamila and Donna and Cindy and Jennifer. And Cindy and Jennifer are both coaches and trainers on my team, and Cindy's a new author of a book I'm going to share with you in a minute. And Jamila and Donna are both clients, and they shared what they're doing for creating an amazing hiring and onboarding and ongoing training program to their culture. And this was an hour-long session where each of the three ladies, not Cindy, but the three other ladies, all did a session. And then I had Cindy come up for the panel because she wrote the book, Relationship Roadmap. So she was talking about it from the perspective of her school that she owned and sold 2 years ago. Incredible book, guys. So if you do nothing else, go to Amazon and buy Relationship Roadmap. Amazing book. It's all about how to craft your winning culture of excellence, collaborative culture, and then tips in the back that you can literally plug right in to your school for staff appreciation and motivation. Amazing. So 2 core hiring principles are always be hiring and never hire out of desperation, fear, or panic. Okay, so in order to do the latter, you got to be doing the former. You always have to be looking for good talent in your community in order to, and then have your hiring funnel. We teach, I did a whole session also in Dallas about how to create your hiring funnel, how to do it, and you put it on autopilot. You market to your staff, you get them to fill out your form for a job. They go into your employee applicant database, and there's a whole funnel that you create. So I taught that in Dallas from the stage, and you would get that full training again if you invest in the sessions. So always be hiring and never hire out of desperation or fear. Have a DRM. Jamila shared this. And you get her full session and her full slides when you invest in the sessions. Be looking for potential hires everywhere, all the time. When you're out to dinner, when you're at the dry cleaner, when you're at the hair salon, when you're at the veterinarian's office. I've been getting some really good customer service lately at my veterinarian's office. I'll tell you, they're just blowing me away with what they're doing. And I shared some of that at a recent mastermind meeting, because you can model anything that you find that is cool, that's good customer service, whether it's letters, emails, verbal stuff they say on the phone to you, something that knocks your socks off, model that and take it and plug it into your business. Boom. Have a recruitment mindset of looking out in your community and finding superstars everywhere you can. And then have an interview checklist for yourself and for your team. So let's say you have 3 locations and you have potentially 6 different leaders doing interviews there. You might have an assistant director and a director at each of your 3 locations, and you're the owner. Does everybody on your team at each location know what your qualities checklist is? Is it laid out? Is it part of your hiring process where you have a whole hiring manual? This is how we hire. So they go through their phone interview, phone screen. They come in. We email them beforehand to get them to show up to the interview and get them excited. They show up. They go through a classroom audition, and then we score them, and the teacher that they were in the audition with scores them on an actual form that's an evaluation form for everybody that does a classroom audition. So you just build it out. But here's qualities that you seek. You could say, what's on my list? So I'm hiring for attitude, not aptitude, maybe. Bubbly personality. I want somebody with energy, drive, who lights up a room. I always say you're looking for Tiggers, not Eeyores. And you can share that with your staff. We're looking for Tiggers, not Eeyores. Everybody knows what that means. Personable, professional, looks good, dressed up a little bit, has makeup on. Prepared, flexible, solid work history. And by the way, they don't have to wear makeup. It's fine. But I'm just saying, looks professional, looks polished. Not a job hopper, right? So you can tell from their resume, assuming the resume is truthful. It's not always going to be. So you can't just go off of that. Your questions have to dig into their behaviors and their history and really hold them to that. And a writing sample. We want to know, these are teachers. These are going to be people that are writing in digital format to parents and or on a parent-teacher conference. They're going to be writing out forms that parents see. We want them to be good writers. They could spell, good handwriting, that kind of thing. So that could be your qualities checklist. Feel free to model and add as you would like. And so you want to lay out your onboarding program or process. Be as specific as possible. So before they start, here is how we are going to prep each new hire. So we're going to send them a series of 2 or 3 videos to get them excited. Here's what to expect. Here's what's going to happen on your first day. Every employee gets a cubby or a locker. You put your phone in the locker. Do not be thinking that you're going to be texting, setting those expectations even before they show up. And you would maybe do that also in a hiring interview. Like once you actually offer them the job, you would maybe be walking through that stuff, or even prior, to make sure that they're a fit. Because you don't want to then surprise them with, hey, did you realize that you're not going to have access to your cell phone during the day? Because we don't have any cell phones in the classrooms. That might be a no-go for some people. But if it is, guess what? They're not a fit for you. But wouldn't that be great to know that before you waste all your time? I mean, I would even be maybe saying questions and making statements about that on the phone screen way early, guys. So if you go through the whole process and then you jump it on them at the end and then they flip out, well, whose fault was that, right? So you have to tell people stuff earlier to make sure they're a fit. First day, what do you want them to know and to do and be able to do? So you give them your culture story, policies, paperwork, and what else? You might take them to lunch. You want to give them a really warm welcome. So you could tie these into your core values. So if teamwork and fun are both core values, you might have a teamwork component where they get welcomed in with a card and all of their coworkers sign the card and put something cute on the card. You might have one of their mentors, if you have a mentor program, you might hook them up with a buddy and they get taken out to lunch, or have the director take them out to lunch, or have lunch brought in their honor, or just make them feel really special. Give them flowers on their first day. So a lot of our members are doing things like this. And in the first week, so then you put together your training guide and you have here's everything we want you to learn on your first week, your first 30 days, and your first 90 days. And many of you guys are doing a 90-day probation or trial period. And they have to pass the muster. And then some of you have a 30-day trial period. And they go into each classroom during that time because you're staffed enough now and you've got floaters and you've got some wiggle room there. So your trainees spend time going into each classroom, learning about what goes on in each classroom so that if they need to float, they've been trained. They have homework. They are responsible for sending maybe an email of what they learned that week or that day. So there's a feedback loop. There's a completion of certain hours that they need to complete of different things according to your state and what's required. They get tested, they get CPR trained, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so you just make your training guide, you make your plan, and then so forth, first 30, first 90. Okay, so that is what your onboarding program or process should look like at a very base. I just wanted to give you enough today to get you started thinking about, do you have one? How you should be hiring. Never hire out of fear and panic. And always be looking for good talent, and then have an onboarding process that you can continue to define, but just start developing that. This is probably one of the most important things that you can do as a director or owner, period. Because if you could start hiring right and onboarding them and keeping them, I mean, imagine your life. Imagine how it would be to go from 80% turnover annually, and I teach people on how to measure this, it's not hard, to 10. So we have members, we have a member in Massachusetts, Charlie and Marcy, they just presented at our beach meeting how they stay at a 10% annual turnover. So 90% of their staff stays year over year. Imagine how your life would change if that was the case for you, especially if you're at 90%, to go from 90% turnover to 90% retention. Life-changing for your quality of service, your quality, the issues you face, the churn, the time spent hiring, the time spent dealing with issues, with all of that noise, parent dissatisfaction. I mean, it just boggles the mind. So work on this, do yourself a favor. This is really, really, really important, guys. And some of you can't enroll more kids because you have dark classrooms because you can't find people to hire. So you can hire well, you can break through the clutter. We shared that with you on Monday's video. And then you can onboard them, and this is possible for you. We have tons of case studies of people that are actually doing this in our field.